Hi, everybody. Welcome to the live tonight. Today, I have with me Kara Higgins. Yeah, guys, I'm so excited to be on the live with all of you tonight and to have Kara be able to join us. I know it's Thanksgiving week, and you guys are all probably ready to travel maybe tomorrow and go see your families. But if you guys are watching, please comment below. Let me know where you're watching from. Let me know what city and state you're from. And also, if you have questions, Kara would be happy to answer it. But today we're going to be talking about all things trauma because, as you guys probably know, trauma is one of those words that triggers people. And especially when it comes to foster care and adoption, it can be, I think actually it is one of the main reasons why people choose not to foster or adopt is because of trauma. So, Kara Higgins, she's going to introduce herself here in a little bit, but she's going to talk to us about trauma. She's going to give us her background story. And also, she's a TBR trained therapist and she trains people all across America about trauma informed care and how to just care for the vulnerable children with that in mind. And so you guys are in for a real treat tonight. I'm so excited that she's on with me tonight. And again, put your questions below as she's talking and she'll be happy to answer. Okay. All right. Hi, Kara. Thank you for being on with me tonight.
Hi, friends. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah.
You're asking me to speak about something that I can talk about all day, every day.
Yeah. So tell us who you are and
Yeah.
why. Yeah, we're on the live tonight.
Okay. So my name's Kara, and my husband and Ryan and I have been married for 22 years. We have a 20-year-old biological daughter who was a micro preemie and a NICU baby. So she has her own little medical and pregnancy trauma. We have a legal guardianship of another 20-year-old. He joined us when he was 16. Then we have a biological son, Blake. He's 18. He also had medical trauma and was in the hospital for a long extended period as a baby. And then we have two of our sons adopted internationally from Rwanda. Etienne, he'll be 17 in a few days, and Ezekiel is 15. And then our baby bird, she is 3, and we adopted her through foster care. And we are currently licensed in Iowa as foster parents. And we also, my husband teaches is a public high school teacher, and about 90% of the kids in his district live below the poverty line. So he's got lots of kids with hard stories. And then I work as a certified nurse midwife and a women's nurse practitioner at a really large community health center where most of my patients are women that are immigrants and refugees. So patients with a lot of trauma, a lot of them have just horrific stories. And we also have a nonprofit in Rwanda that is a trauma-informed orphan care program and a primary school with 8. Right now we have 8 classrooms, and all the children in our program know they live in foster homes rather than boarding schools. And so we are just all day, every day. This is just kind of what we eat, sleep, breathe. And
That's
so,
amazing. You have such
yeah.
an incredible, your background is so amazing. Dave, thank you for joining in. You're listening from Canada. Welcome, welcome.
Oh, hi.
Yeah, there's Dave on here.
Canada.
And then anybody else who's here watching, please put your name and where you're watching from. I'd love to say hello. Again, we're talking about trauma tonight and everything you need to know about it. And as you guys have heard briefly from Kara just now, this is what she does. And so
Yeah.
I can't wait to even learn more from her tonight because as you guys know, we're foster parents right now, and we definitely need this training. And so this is just so crucial in caring for vulnerable children. Even if you don't become a permanent foster parent, if you want to mentor foster kids, or even if you just provide respite care once in a while for foster parents, it's still really important to know about trauma and to know how to spot it and to know what to do. Just whenever you're going to be around vulnerable children in some capacity. So this is really, really important. All right. So,
Yeah, I mean,
Kara, yeah.
I would interject, and I would say anybody who works with kids,
Yeah.
TBRI training is critical because state of our world post-pandemic, I don't really feel there's very many children that don't have some adverse childhood experiences. So I encourage teachers, educators, social workers, healthcare providers, people who have a lot of children in their families. Maybe you have a niece or a nephew or a grandchild that has experienced trauma. It doesn't even have to be foster care or adoption. And I'm going to go through a little bit of that in a few minutes when we go through my slides.
That's so true. I'm so glad you said that because that's one of the things that I always say for folks who are kind of scared about how to deal with trauma for foster kids specifically is I usually tell them, I think everybody in the world has had some type of trauma. But we just associate it with foster kids a little bit differently than we do with our own. So if you have a niece that's had some type of trauma, you don't see it the same as you do a foster kid that has had trauma for some reason. I
Yeah.
think maybe the added layer to that is that we don't know the foster kids, right? So there's the added layer of like they're a stranger, you're bringing a stranger into your home, and now you have to learn all these things. And so it's completely normal to feel like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do because I feel the same way. So yeah, Kara, do you want me to start your slides here for
Yeah.
you?
Why don't we jump in and
Okay,
everyone
let's
can
do
see
that.
them that way?
Perfect.
And okay,
All
so
right.
what we're referencing, TBRI, is trust-based relational interventions. That's what TBRI stands for. And this is a proven approach for helping children to heal, children who have not had a foundation, a healthy attachment cycle, or a healthy foundation in which to grow and learn and love. And so this is out of TCU, Texas Christian University, and Dr. Karen Purvis originally was the founder of TBRI 30 years ago now. And initially it was geared for children from foster care or adoption. And they soon realized that it was beneficial for all kids. And so the program has evolved over the years. I think we're on our third edition. I'm a facilitator and a provider for the 3.0. So we'll get into that a little bit. There's a lot out there that you can learn about TBRI. I have a little video that kind of covers the nuts and bolts of it, but that's what I am trained, and that's what I provide classes and coaching and workshops for people to give them a better tool set for helping the kids that they work with or that they're loving. You
Yeah.
can go to the next
Awesome.
one.
All right.
These are my kiddos that I introduced.
They're
And this is a
beautiful.
video. Here we go. Yep. Will it work for you?
I I don't think so. I think it just comes up as a slide.
Oh no, it works for everyone else.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Sorry.
it's embedded. Okay, well then I guess I'm gonna give you guys the nuts and bolts of it.
Okay.
So TBRI is actually, can you go to the next slide then?
Yeah,
Since
sure.
I can't use that video.
Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, it's important that we actually really understand that there's a lot of trauma out there, and what it is how we experience what has happened to us, and that is very, very unique for each individual. Just like pain, since my medical background, I deliver babies. I compare trauma to pain a lot. What's painful for one person may not be painful for another human. And trauma is the same way. There's a stressful event, the person experiences that event, and the ways that they experience it is going to be really unique to them based on their personalities, based on their previous experiences, based on their support systems. A lot of things play into that. And then we have a lot of different types of trauma. And please, if you see questions pop up, please interject or stop me.
Yeah. Yeah, I will.
So acute trauma is like a one-time traumatic, you're in a car accident, or you witness a plane crash, something like that, a one-time event. A chronic trauma is when we have families that are dealing with chronic lack of resources. So constant questioning whether they're going to have food or they're going to be able to have rent paid. That's chronic trauma. Complex trauma is in reference to if we have families that have caregivers who have substance abuse problems, or maybe a parent who has a mental illness. That would be a chronic chronic trauma. Complex traumas are things where we have abuse that's happening over and over, whether it's emotional, sexual, whatever kind of complex is when we're experiencing abuse repetitively. And then secondary or vicarious trauma. This is what we see in a lot of times medical providers have this. They call it, like in the trends humor, the secondary trauma can be for parents of children who have been placed in foster care or adoption. I see a lot of secondary trauma in siblings. So if you have biological children and then you adopt, those biological children often experience some secondary trauma. Collective trauma is when you have, this is actually like racism. This is when whole groups of people experience something together. So what's happening with Israel and in the Gaza Strip right now, that's collective trauma, an entire group of people. The genocide in Rwanda, where I spend a lot of time, is collective trauma. Then we have generational trauma, which kind of speaks for itself, that cycle, the unhealthy communicating, the unhealthy things that are passed on from parents to their children and so forth.
Yeah.
And so I think when we look at trauma and we think about it that way, that's why I say we all need to understand and have more insight on it, because all of us have probably experienced something at one time or another. And then when we're working with kids who have multiple, I mean, the children in our program in Rwanda, they're living in a culture post-genocide. So their entire community has collective trauma. They're living, their children who are orphaned, whose parents were orphaned. So they've got the generational stuff going on. And a lot of those parents that they're with have mental illnesses or substance abuse problems. So then you get into complex trauma. And it's like, where do we break that cycle? So that's what we're trying to do with trust-based relational interventions. We're trying to get in there and break the cycle and heal the trauma from the inside out.
Yeah, I love how you like this is just it's so simple to understand. It's just like how a person experiences a stressful event.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It just makes it so simple because then it's not specifically like foster children. Because again,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like maybe there's this misconception, maybe it's the news or kind of the sources where we get this information is
Yeah.
that trauma is only in foster care or something. There's
Mm-hmm.
that mindset. So this is just so helpful to see that no, it's just kind of a regular part of life. This is just how any person experiences a stressful event and how they
Yeah.
react to it. That's
I,
very helpful.
I also want to point out that with chronic and complex traumas, I work with families of children who are autistic. And for children who are autistic and their world around them does not understand them, and they're entering a classroom every day, or they're entering a store, they're entering somewhere where no one can understand what they're trying to communicate, that is a complex and a chronic trauma for kids who have special needs of any kind, kids who have a medical condition where they're going and they're getting procedures done and they're expressing pain, they're expressing fear, and their caregiver cannot respond to them because they need that medical treatment. Those are traumatic experiences that are definitely going to impact how a child learns and grows and how they trust people, everyone
Mm.
around them, right? The
Yeah.
other families I work with a lot is divorced families. So when kids are going from one household to another and there's unclear expectations, or there's very different expectations, very different environments that they're expected to adjust their behaviors, that can be really traumatic for little kids too.
Yeah, yeah. For all of those who are listening, if you just joined us, please put your name in the comments. Let me know where you're watching from. And Kara would love to answer your questions too at the end. So please feel free to put your questions down and share this live with your friends. Tell them to come in and join us as we're talking about trauma.
Okay, so I'm going to talk to you like you've never heard of the attachment cycle. So on the first picture, this secure attachment cycle. So we have at the top that this is, I'm going to use a baby because they're the easiest, and that's where it really starts. So we have a baby and the baby is relaxed. They're sleeping in their crib. Then the situation arises. They have a wet diaper. So there's a need prompted. They're awake. They've been woken up by that cold, wet diaper. So we move down here and that stress is expressed. The baby cries. The baby's waking up and crying. Then we move to the green, that light green, and it says the need is met. The parent or the caregiver comes in, picks up the baby, changes the baby, soothes the baby. And what happens in response is that that baby learns to trust. That baby learns that their voice is heard and that there is someone that cares about what they are expressing, that need they're expressing. That is how we build a secure attachment cycle. In children who have experienced trauma, and like I said, not just with foster kids or adopted kids, the child is in a relaxed state. That same baby, or maybe it's a 7-year-old. We have a 7-year-old, and the 7-year-old closes his hand in the car door. That situation arises that he closes his hand and he cries out, but nobody comes and helps him and opens the door for him. So he's crying, he's experienced distress, but his need is not met. And so he stays in a stressed out state because nobody has heard his voice. Nobody has answered his cry for help. And so he ends up living in a state of stress, like all the time. Sometimes some of our kids are in a state of stress 24/7 because that unmet need goes on and on and on, and no one has heard their little voice. And so that is a disrupted attachment cycle. I wish I could see faces. I always say, are you
I
tracking?
know.
I'm hoping y'all are tracking with me. And if somebody has a question about that attachment cycle and we can jump in and interrupt. I don't mind at all.
Yeah.
But this is important to point out, like a child who has a disruptive attachment style, this is what it looks like when they're a 14-year-old and they come home from school and they are just wound up. They're picking on everybody. They're getting into everything. They can't do their homework. They can't focus. It looks to us like they can't focus. Well, what's happened is they have learned that their voice doesn't matter. So what are they going to do for their voice to matter? What are they going to do to be heard? That's like in the nuts and bolts and the short of it. That is what it can look like with a big kid. And you can go to the next slide. This is an example of my baby bird. She was in foster care for 6 months before she was placed with us. Then what happened is that the judge had her going back to her biological family member twice a week for 2 years. This is how she had to fall asleep. You can see how rigid she was, and you can see that she had to face out and that she wouldn't even really close her little eyes. And this is a real good example of fear, because a lot of our kids are living in a chronic state of fear all the time. And it's more than a feeling. It's like a way of being. And fear is so powerful, and it can be so overwhelming, and it can bully our kids into misbehaving. And so I want you, when you see a child that is what you may say giving you a hard time, I want you to start reframing it and say, this child is having a hard time. And think about that they're in a state of stress all the time, and that fear and that unmet need is bullying them into this chronic state of nervous, anxious, fearful living. And that's a hard way to be. Like, thinking about if you are on an amusement park ride and you know that drop is coming and you can feel your body tense up, you can feel your muscles tighten, and you know it's coming and you know it's coming. That's what that physical feeling for our kids, like living in a condition like that all the time, is just got to be so exhausting, right?
Yeah.
And so I think this is a really good example of like her little body. And I think I'd been holding her at that point for probably at least an hour. It took her 2 to 3 hours to fall asleep at night or for nap. So you can go to the next one. Okay. So I don't know who I'm speaking to. So I'm going to speak like none of you have ever heard of upper brain or lower brain or upstairs brain or downstairs brain. All of us are built the same in our brains, as in our lower brain, the oranges, the 2 orange parts. That is the part of our brain that we are all born with. This is largely instinctual. This is the part of our brain that controls our biology, our basic needs. This is the part of our brain that is always going to seek safety and security. It's also going to always be looking for affection and nurturing. And this is like, what you have is what you get. So however your lower brain functions at birth is how it's always going to function, unless like there's an injury, right? So your lower brain is never going to change. Your upper brain is growing until the day you die, which is really amazing. And it is completely growing and developed by our experiences around us. So our upper brain is where we do our cause and effect, our logic, our reasoning. This is what is influenced by all the experiences we have. So when you're thinking back to that kid who has been left alone all day, every day in an apartment, and no one checks on him, and he just eats Cheez-Its. Like, he's so limited on the experiences around him, let alone the relationships, and let alone the experiences and emotions and safe people around him. His upper brain is going to be very underdeveloped, and he's going to be operating all the time in his lower brain that's seeking safety and seeking comfort and survival. So those are the kids that are in survival mode because that's all they know.
Yeah.
They have not had the experiences or the people to help them to develop their upper brain. So when we come in and we're using TBRI model, we are looking to help them to learn how to grow their upper brain and to create spaces around them, relationships around them, environments around them in which they feel safe so that they can start to move into their upper brain more frequently.
Wow. This is so good. Hey, anybody else here feeling like, wow, this is amazing teaching? Put your comments below. Let us know if you guys have any questions. Kara is happy to answer any questions you have. Let's see. Oh, sorry, Kara, just 1 second. Roel Fam, she said, hey, off topic, but last week you asked to update while our daughter's adoption was finalized today. So they adopted from foster
Congratulations.
care. Congratulations, Roel. That's so exciting. Thank you for updating me.
What
Yay.
state are they? What state is she in?
Yeah, Roel, what state are you in? I think she told me last week or 2 weeks ago. I can't remember. But she'll put it up in the comments. Oh, congratulations, Earl. That's so exciting.
Yeah, that another kid humping. That's
Yes.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Okay,
you can
next
move
guy.
on.
Oh, he's from Michigan.
Oh, okay.
Michigan.
Awesome. Okay, so with trust-based relational interventions, like I said, we want you to start reframing our lens to see our kids' behaviors as a communication and really a fear or an unmet need. So we do this with these cute little graphics, these 9 connected practices. So that top one is be curious, moving across like we're reading a book. We've got balancing nurturing with structuring, meeting needs, using scaffolding, taking place seriously, being present, responding thoughtfully, giving voice, and then to repair, reflect, and readjust. These are the 9 practices with TBRI that as we work together, we build on these. And this really helps us to become kind of a detective in what our kids are doing and where we can come in and help them to heal and grow. And honestly, it's a game changer. One of my sons, he had been we had probably been through 5 or 6 therapists, been on meds, done all the sensory integration work, had done EMDR. If you're familiar with that, that's a type of therapy for people who've experienced trauma. He was on a path to an institutional place because he was not
Wow.
safe. He was
Yeah.
violent. He got kicked out of school every day. We were in a constant state of barely surviving, barely surviving. Our other kids were all suffering because it was hard to keep them safe from him. And this went on for years. And so my husband and I attended a weekend. They used to be called Empowered to Connect weekends, and they were like $40 because there was if you're familiar with Stephen Curtis Chapman, he has a nonprofit,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
he paid for adoptive and foster families to get 2 days, like a crash course in this. So we attended out of necessity and out of desperation because we had literally tried everything. And to the point, like, I had a necrotic tumor removed from where he would always hit me, like where his head
Wow.
would line up. I had a necrotic tumor. We had a lot of structural damage in our house. Like
Wow.
I said, he was getting kicked out of school every day. And
Oh my
so
goodness.
we went to this conference and we were like, we have nothing to lose. Let's give it a try. As soon as we tried one little thing, we would see a glimmer of hope, and it would be
Wow.
enough for me to grab onto it and be like, okay, what's next? Let me try this again.
Yeah.
And it transformed us, and it continued to transform and transform, and we started to feel like there was hope for this child, and there was hope
Yeah.
that we could have a genuine relationship and love and have a family that could someday like be happy together again.
Yeah.
And that's where, and so now I would say that that kid is probably one of my biggest safe people in my world, my
Oh,
husband, and
wow.
this kid. Like, if this kid and I are in a room together, he and I are on the same wave. He knows exactly how I'm feeling. I know what he's feeling. uh I
Wow.
mean, it's just been like a huge testament to TBRI when you do the
Wow.
work and when you're
Yeah.
committed. And
Yeah.
I work with families all the time where the moms, especially, because I'll be honest with you, if you've got an audience of thinking about adopting or maybe just adopted or foster, tends to be that the moms are going to take the hardest behaviors. And I will say
Mhm.
that that is because all of our kids that have been placed with us, their very first connection was with their biological mom, right?
Yeah.
Whether it was good or not, whether it was healthy or not, it was their very first primal connection. And that was something that was fractured. So whether you got your baby from moments after they were alive or you got them when they were 13, either way, they both, that baby and that teenager, experienced a loss of their very very first connection. And
Wow.
so there's no way to avoid that. And I really believe that we as moms, we are our kids' safest space. Even if they don't like us, even if they don't want to be with us, we still are going to be their safest place to come home to. And we're also going to always remind them of what they lost. And that's
Mm.
just like the hard juxtaposition that adoption and foster care is. There's a loss, there's something sad and unfair that happened to a child, and we are there to come along beside them and to carry that hard stuff with them.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Carrie, you are Kara, sorry, Kara. That's because I'm seeing a comment from Carrie in the comments. She says her 2.5-year-old daughter's adoption was finalized last Friday on National Adoption Day.
Oh, that's
Congratulations,
a great day to
Carrie.
do
It's
it.
amazing. But
Wish
no,
I could
Kara, I
do
was
it.
gonna say you are literally speaking directly to me because I mean, this is what that's going on in our house right now to the point where I'm literally on the verge of giving up foster
Mhm,
care because it's been so difficult. My
mhm.
foster kids have bonded with my husband so quickly. I mean, they literally from day one, they ran to him. It took him at least a week just to even look at me. And so it's just been a hard thing to continue to show up and still feel. I mean, I know they're not doing it intentionally, but it still hurts, you know?
It does, it
So
does.
I'm so glad you brought that up because I didn't know that that was a thing. I mean,
It's
you
100% a thing.
had no
I
idea.
I don't think I've
Wow.
ever met a foster or adoptive mom that feels any differently, and let me just encourage you that a
Wow.
child who runs to a stranger isn't that's not healthy, no matter how wonderful your husband is. It's not necessarily about
Right.
either one of you, it's about trauma, it's
Yeah.
about the hurt they've experienced.
Yeah. Wow. That's really powerful. All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break here. And I want to show you guys something really awesome. So I'm starting a course November 27th, which is next Monday. And Kara, this is going to be a bonus for those of you who joined today. Kara is going to be joining me to teach more about trauma. So for those of you who feel called to adopt, you're going to want to watch this. Okay. So we will be right back with more of Kara and TBRI. This incredible journey called adoption, but are you ready to embark on this incredible journey called adoption, but you are unsure where to start? you are not alone. I want to let you know that doors are now opened to our signature course called the Kingdom Adoption Launchpad. And you're going to want to sign up because in this 4-week live course, we're going to equip you with the knowledge, the tools, and the support that you need to start your adoption journey confidently. We're going to cover topics such as the different types of adoptions available to you, all the different ways that you can adopt, and everything else you need to know to actually start the process confidently and not wonder what is the next step I need to take, how much is this going to cost. So if that's you and the Lord has been working on your heart for years now to adopt, whether you have biological children or you don't have any biological children yet, I want to encourage you to join us for the Kingdom Adoption Launchpad. We'll be starting November 27, 2023 for 4 weeks, and I cannot wait to see you there. So just go to kingdomadoptionlaunchpad.com and sign up there, and I hope to see you all there. All right, guys. Thank you for still being here. I'm so excited about it. And you guys go ahead and sign up. Kingdom Adoption Launchpad. It's going to be so fun. Again, Cara is going to join us. So we're going to be talking more about trauma in that course as well. We start next Monday. All right, Cara, take it back.
All right, let's go to the next slide.
All right.
This is my beautiful, handsome Etienne, the one that
Aw.
we had such a hard time. And, it's another thing that I think it's important to talk about is that you can be in a good place and you can be really attached and you can still have things that are hard. And the thing that Etienne will tell you, because he does question and answer sessions with my parents in my classes, as he will say that he knows now that I'm on his side and it's me and him against his story.
Wow.
And
That's
so
really powerful.
it is. It still gets me. I had to take a moment not to let my voice crack. The
Wow.
other thing about that is that as kids enter different stages of life and development, there's going to be experiences and emotions that are going to bring up feelings. And so we just have to know that we're beside them, and that because we take steps backwards, it doesn't mean that we're not healing. It doesn't mean that we don't have healthy relationships. And so
Yeah.
when I talk about looking at being curious, when we say we're curious, we're thinking about, okay, in this moment, what's going on with this kid? One of those pieces is approaching their behaviors with a whole child mindset. So are they hungry? Did they sleep well last night? Are they in sensory overload or underload? Are they feeling well? Or they actually have a cough and they're just frustrated with their cough? Is school too hard for them today? Emotionally, do they even understand what they're feeling right now? Going through each of these squares, each of these little cute things, and we actually have this on my refrigerator because it's that
Oh,
important
wow.
to all of us, and because we do foster kids. And so even our older kids, if I'm not home and we've got a screaming kid and they call me, I'll be like, okay, look at what time it is. Why don't you try getting a sippy cup of water and getting out some fruit and giving a snack? And 9 times out of 10, when we think through this, we can figure out that the kid is freaking out. They're having a meltdown. They are acting out because there's an unmet need there.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
so this is one of the tools that we use with TBRI in
Mhm.
looking at being curious what their behavior is telling us.
Gotcha.
Yes. Okay. And that all behavior is communication, right? This is a developmental puzzle, and I want you all to see this. And then if you ever do a class or some coaching or workshop with me, this is one of our other we also have this on the fridge at my house, the Higgins house, as a reminder that our kids, just because their physical age may say one thing, that does not mean that these other squares, that these other puzzle pieces are going to align with what their physical age is. And so let me give you
Mm.
an example. If you have a kid who, I'm working with a family right now that has a 12-year-old and a 7-year-old sibling set through foster care. That 12-year-old cared for that 7-year-old from the day she was born. That 12-year-old's life experience age is off the chart. She's like an adult. She knows how to make a bottle. She knows how to do all the things that moms do because of her life experience. But you
Mm.
put her in a classroom and her school age is really more like a fourth grader. Her emotional age is really more like a preschooler because all she ever did was sit in an apartment and take care of her siblings. So I think that's a good example. And just to be, when we're looking at our kids' behaviors and when we're looking at our own expectations, are we being fair to these kids? Is our expectation the expectation that is one of a 14-year-old that has all the normal experiences of 14-year-olds who have healthy relationships and caregivers and safe learning environments?
Mhm.
Are you tracking with me?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. That makes complete sense.
Yeah, and so and especially for us and our expectations, that we are really really cognizant that our kids are probably not going to fit, all their ages are not going to line up at all.
Right. Right.
And so
And
we
so,
have, oh, go ahead.
yeah, I was gonna say, so what do you like? How do you deal with that? If the
So
child is
we
at
go
his,
back to and
yeah.
that's why it's so cool. The classes are built on one another, but we go back to, how can we do this attachment cycle? Does this kid need nurture right now, or do they need structure right now?
Mhm.
And what can we do to provide more nurturing to build that trust? Because when we're nurturing, that's when we're building the trust. We're meeting
Yeah.
the need, whether it's a physical need or an emotional need. And that's
Mm.
the other important piece of it. We have all these steps in place for teaching a child to tie their shoe, or steps in place for riding a bike. But what kinds of steps can we do for healthy emotional growth? What kinds of steps can we put in place for a child to understand their feelings and what to do with those feelings, and how to come alongside them to
Yeah.
recognize and learn and process them, and
Mhm.
and catch them up to the age they're going to be.
Yeah. Wow, that's really good. Yeah.
So this is Dr. Karen Purvis. If a child needs nurture and I give him structure, I harm his ability to trust me. If a child needs structure and I give him nurture, I harm his ability to grow. Nurture and structure must be used hand in hand.
Wow.
So that right there is kind of the nuts and bolts of what I work with families in understanding, is that balance. So it is not free range parenting, but
Yeah.
what it looks like is that when a child is having a hard time, when they're having behaviors that are just too much, and everything is spiraling, that you're pulling that child in closer rather than pushing them away. Because
Mhm.
that child does not know that they are precious in sunshine and rain. That child does not know that they matter no matter what they do, and that they're safe no matter what happens, with that you are their safe person. And so it's a matter of, we have structure for protecting our kids. We have structure for helping our kids learn how to grow and learn how to operate in the world. But we have nurture to help them to learn to love and feel safe and to heal.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay. Healing is not linear. It is a marathon, not a sprint. This is my girl, and this was just a few days ago. I don't know if you can tell, she has no pants on, and she has a pacifier in her mouth, and she is 3. And my
Yeah.
husband and I always say we would rather pay for orthodontics than have her to be struggling with her emotions. And so, yep,
Yeah.
she still has a pacifier, and we thought she was potty trained, and now she's not. And that's okay, because she's sitting on my lap and she's seeking comfort from me. And that's a
Yeah.
sign of emotional healing.
Wow. This is really disrupting the way that I think logically, to think through healing as being linear and not something that just goes up, because I want it to just go up.
Mhm,
I want to keep yeah, making strides every day and feel like we're actually
mhm,
making progress. I don't want it to be a
mhm.
marathon. I
So,
mean, I don't want yeah,
yeah,
I don't want it to be a marathon. I want it
yeah.
to be a sprint.
And so on average, it takes a child 24 repetitions to learn a new skill.
Wow.
So keeping that in mind too.
Yeah.
And then if you throw in any wrenches into their little environment while they're practicing that skill, that's going to take it even longer.
Yeah.
Um, and when you just start to think of it differently, like, we're in this for the long haul, and
Mm.
today might be a hard day, and today I might have to have that child next to me all day. But I'm doing the hard work. I'm doing work that I was called to do.
Yeah. I think it's really amazing to see how I mean, obviously paid off with your son. and how now you see the results of just being steady over the years and running the
Mhm.
marathon and seeing that it actually does pay off in the long run.
Yeah.
So it's not like, because for me, I want to know that the effort I'm putting into something is actually going to pay off. I
Mhm.
don't want to just be working and working and not seeing results. So I don't know. What would you say to people like me who, like, I need to see that we're going somewhere, because
You
otherwise
know,
I can just give up very easily if I'm not seeing that we're moving forward in some
I
way.
think that's why it's so important to have community, and that's
Mhm.
why it's important to listen to the stories and to tell those stories. Because I didn't that's part excuse me, that's part of the reason I do what I do now is because a decade ago, I didn't have anybody to help me. I didn't have anybody to tell me that this is trauma and there's another way to do this. And I didn't have anyone to look at. And so I think you need to find community.
Right.
I'm very intentional about frequently sharing stories, hard stories and good stories, because
Mhm.
I just think there's not enough voices for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I was
And
just gonna let people see your face more.
my little baby bird, right before her adoption, there would be times when she was really, she wanted me to hold her, but then when I would hold her, she would kind of lean away from me and she would cry and cry. And my big handsome Etienne, uh, there was an afternoon where she was just doing this, pushing and pulling, literally pushing and pulling and wanting me, but I wasn't enough. And he came up to me and he made me a cup of tea, my favorite cinnamon tea. And he said, Mom, she wants you, but she's also mad that she wants you right now. She's mad that,
Wow.
and he's like, just let me help her. Um, and that's
Wow.
what I always remember when I get frustrated, especially when you've got those kids that are in your home and it's hard. I
Yeah.
remember like you can feel two things at once, and even little kids can feel two things at once. They don't have the experience or the understanding to know those two emotions, right? And so
Yeah.
he took her that day and he put a blanket over the two of their heads and they went out and
Oh.
walked around our neighborhood. I think it was Missing or something, and they just walked, and um, it's a beautiful thing to see him be able to recognize her needs and give
Wow.
voice to that, because what a powerful,
Wow.
way to explain it. She wants
Yeah.
you, but she's mad that she wants you. Like,
Yeah.
I get that. I'm not your first mom.
Right. Wow, that is so powerful. Can any of you in here relate? Maybe those of you who are fostering, are you having kind of the same questions that I have had for Kara? Maybe the same struggles, because I definitely am. And I've learned so much already just with Kara on here today about, I mean, I didn't know about how the mother thing, I didn't know that it was a thing, because I'm experiencing it in my home and I thought it was just the kids don't like me or something. But just even hearing that is like, oh, a sigh of relief. Like, okay, this is
Mhm.
not me. I'm not doing anything wrong. This is them. And, I can get the tools to help them heal from that trauma. That's very powerful. So, just a reminder to put your questions in the comments. Kara really wants to answer your questions if you have any. All right, let's get back to the presentation.
You can go to the next one.
Yeah.
Actually, this is it.
Yeah.
This is how you can find me.
Yeah.
This is my name on Instagram. I post a lot of examples all the time. I might not give official name to this is what it looks like to be curious, but I
Yeah.
do. I'm very intentional about what we share. And I also think it's really important that we protect our kids' stories, because they're
Yeah.
their stories, not ours to share. And so anything that I'm writing and sharing with my kids, they're writing with me, which is really powerful too. And they're
Yeah.
they're giving me permission to share that.
Wow, that's awesome. So
So
yeah, guys, connect with Kara. This is what she does for a living. I mean, she's amazing. She's hopefully going to be working with our foster care agency here soon, hopefully, to provide a TBRI training for foster parents, because this is obviously it's so needed. I mean, I don't know if you guys are working with a foster care agency, but it doesn't seem like a lot of them provide this for foster families just kind of an ongoing basis. Maybe some of them do, but in Nebraska, I don't know a
no,
lot that do. Yeah,
no,
not in Nebraska.
and
But
they
this is
They
so
just
need
need
it.
like a little tap into it, just a
Right,
real not enough, not enough of hands-on.
right.
This is how you actually do it.
Right. And the way I actually found out about Kara is because I was getting just very frustrated. I basically was on the verge of giving up with her foster care, with her foster kids, because I didn't know what to do. And even going back to read the videos from the training that we did with foster care doesn't really help because, I mean, I'm in a different situation now. So the examples they give me in foster care is not helping with my foster kids. And so, I mean, they're like, well, maybe you can try a therapist, but I need a TBRI trained therapist because I
Yeah.
don't want to take my foster kid to therapy and they do things over there. But then when he comes home, I still don't know what to do when
Mhm.
my foster kid is acting up, right? So I love TBRI. We learned about Karen Purvis through a foster care training, and I just instantly loved her method and how she used the approach of connection and building trust with the kids versus, I don't know, some other method. And so if you guys want to know more, or if you've been, like where you are right now, I found Kara because I need help. And so if you're in the same boat I am, contact Kara, wholehearted, and then it's hyphen space,
Yeah.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
wholehearted hyphen space.com and go connect with her there. And I'm sure she would love to connect with you. But while she's still here, hi, Juliana from Houston. Nice to see you. Nice to see you. Cynthia is here too. She says, I hope in the near future I can adapt. Awesome. Awesome. So yeah, keep putting put your questions below and Kara will be happy to answer. Now, before we start doing the Q&A, well, I'm going to wait for your comments to come up. I want to remind you guys about the course that I'm going to be starting next Monday, November 27th. It's called the Kingdom Adoption Launchpad. And Kara is going to be a bonus for us. She's going to teach us so much about trauma. So if you know that adoption is what you're supposed to, God's called you to adopt, but you have no idea where to start. You're like, I don't know how to do this. I don't know the first thing about foster care, or maybe you want to adopt a newborn or adopt internationally. That's what this course is about, is to help you understand how to start your adoption journey confidently. And one of the most important things that you're going to need to learn is TBRI, is to learn what to do with trauma, what trauma looks like, and then to be equipped to know how to handle it so that when you do bring this child into your home, you're not just left wondering what to do and you're not left wanting to give up like where I was because you just don't know what to do. Okay. So it's going to be so awesome. I want to share with you guys a quick testimony from a client of mine who, when she joined our program, from the time she joined and within 12 months, they brought their baby girl home through adoption. Okay. So I'm going to take a moment. I'm going to share that testimonial with you, and then we're going to come back so Kara can answer your questions.
Are not going anywhere. If you are not going anywhere, what are your other options? And I think being a part of your program, we were able to see what other options were out there. Whereas when you're in an agency, you're just kind of in this bubble and you don't hear anything else. We were hesitant initially because, every avenue that you do with adoption does cost money, and that's the crummy part, which is unfortunate. But if you choose the right people and if you choose the right programs to be a part of, it's worth every single penny to get that ultimate goal is to bring that child home to you. And I think you really helped us get to that point, and we're extremely thankful for it.
All right. So that was Kinsey. Kinsey and her husband, Matthew, they adopted within 12 months of working with us through the Adoption Success Accelerator program. But this course that I'm starting November 27th is going to really help you to launch your adoption journey. And again, Kara's going to be joining us. I'm so excited for what she's going to teach through that 4-week course. It's going to be such a treat. All right. So Amy says in the comments, this is all so good. Our agents. Oh, Kara, can you hear me?
I can see it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you can see it. Oh, great. She said, our agency in Lincoln just started training on TBRI, focus a lot on connection. My struggle is expecting accountability in teens and finding a balance between connection and structure. Yeah. So Amy, what do you say about that?
Oh, Amy, I wish if I have the next time that I have an online class, I would encourage you, or find me on social media and start following me, because my teens can give voice to this. And I'll be real with you, like, I still have to check myself all the time, because the accountability piece is, with all teenagers, is hard anyway, whether they have trauma or not. And so that's where we come in with that developmental puzzle, and being aware of, like, where they're at cognitively and emotionally, and being curious and mindful of their stories. And so that's going to impact it. The other part of TBRI that we use is we use scaffolding. So building up the skills alongside them. So a lot of our teens, especially, we're going to start noticing that they're lagging in their emotional age, and in their relational and their cognitive stuff. And so how are we going to be, what are fair expectations, and what kind of accountability would you give a 9-year-old? So just because this kid is 16, you can't really have him be accountable like other 16-year-olds. And so when you are looking at it that way, that is going to change what your expectations are, if that makes sense. And it's a daily thing, and you do need a lot of structure, and a lot of natural consequences tend to happen for teenagers anyway. I have a family in California I'm working with, and the kid and his mom, they're getting to a better place, but he was in a color run, and he took the color run, color powder stuff, and he drew a body part on the side of the school. I'm sure that you can all imagine what body part a 15-year-old boy would draw. And his mom is super conservative, super conservative, Christian, and mortified. And she texted me before he came home from school, because the school called and said that happened. Now, what happened at school was the school made him clean off the wall. He had to scrub it, clean it off, and he couldn't participate in the color run, and he wasn't allowed to go to the homecoming dance. So he had some consequences for his actions. Now, he has a mom that he and she are not they're not connected, they're not attached, because of his trauma and because he was adopted. And previously, when he got home, she would have yelled at him. She would have given him extra chores. They wouldn't have spoken for days. And when she talked to him, he'd put his hoodie on, and he'd maybe even cuss at her. When he drew the body part and he came home, her new game plan was to have a Gatorade for him, his favorite Gatorade, and a snack, and be sitting at the kitchen table and ask him, "Hey, I heard you had a rough day. Do you want to tell me about it?" And by her offering him a snack, because teenagers love language is food, and she's also nurturing him, feeding is a nurturing act. So she's coming at him with some nurture. He's already gotten a consequence at school. He's already had a punishment from the real world, right? So now he's coming home, and he knows that he messed up. He knows that he got in trouble. And so she's coming in, and she's like, "I love you anyway. I'm here for you. Do you want to talk about it?" And guess what happened? He was a little bit defensive, but he ate the snack with her and sat there, and then they went about their day. And it did not turn into days of yelling and not talking to each other. And that's how it looks. That's a real life, happened last week in San Diego story. And for her, she's still struggling internally. She's mad. She's like, "I feel like he needs another punishment." But she also has these years of experience where she tried to punish him and it didn't work. Here they are. He's been home 8 or 9 years, and she probably feels like he hates her, and he probably feels like she hates him. So she got to the point that me punishing him didn't help. It just made things worse. And he already got punished at school. So I'm hoping that's a good, maybe you can connect the dots with a little bit of an example with the nurture, and the accountability is also happening in the real world.
Yeah. Wow. That's great. Amy, I hope that helped. Let us know in the comments below. Alexa just joined us. She said, "Hi, y'all. I'm late, but glad I made it." Glad you made it too, Alexa. Thanks for joining. All right, guys. Any other questions? We're going to be on for probably about 2 more minutes, so that Cara, is your baby bird sleeping already?
No.
No? Oh, no.
She is
Do you need
not.
to go?
She normally would be, but the teenagers, they don't have school tomorrow, and one of
That's
them is
right.
in
Yes.
charge of FCA, if you're familiar with FCA, and we have like literally 25 high school kids in my basement right now.
Okay. So yeah, she's not sleeping.
She's
Okay.
not. I
Okay.
was
Well,
actually
Amy
worried that
said,
it was going to get really loud in here. I've got all the doors closed. I'm not in like an office space because I'm trying to be as far away from all the teenagers as I can.
yeah.
And I'm
No,
seeing
thank
Amy
you.
says it's against
Yes.
everything I believe, but it makes sense. Oh, Amy, I
Yes.
got you. Like literally every single family I work with will start out saying, this is not how I've ever done it, but it
Yes.
makes sense. Like what you're
Yeah.
saying is totally true. And a lot of TBRI is undoing what we've been doing and looking at it with a fresh lens.
Yeah. Well, guys, listen, I found Kara and I'm like, I'm not letting you go. And so
Awesome.
I told
And we
her,
don't
not
live that
only do
far from
I,
each other.
yeah, I'm like, not only am I coming to your classes and your trainings, but I need to share you with my people. Like, you are a gold mine.
Oh, thank you.
And so, guys, seriously, contact her. She said, follow her on social media, wholehearted
Mhm.
hyphen space.com. And that's also the website, wholehearted hyphen space.com. Actually, should I just pull up this slide one more time so
Sure.
everybody can see it? Let
Yeah.
me pull up this slide. It's right there, wholehearted hyphen space.com. She does in-person workshops, online classes, one-on-one coaching, speaking engagement. So just contact her. I'm sure she has something for you if you're struggling right now. Or for those of you, again, who want to adopt, you want to adopt, but you're just like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know all about this trauma business. I don't know what to do. This would at least give you a really good foundation so that it doesn't seem so intimidating moving forward,
Mhm.
especially adapting from foster care. Even adopting a newborn, I think people think that adopting a newborn is easier than adopting from foster care, but that's not true because newborns are just as traumatized as, kids in foster care. I mean, like we learned today, trauma is how somebody experiences a stressful event. A newborn is taken from the biological mom
Mhm.
that was my foster daughter. She was born
Mhm.
and taken away from a mom right away. That's trauma. And
Mhm.
we are living the effects of that right now. Um, somebody who's 13 and is in foster care also experienced trauma. So I love that this training can help us to connect with the kids where they are and really help to build a trust and connect with them again, to bring healing to their hearts and their brains and all of that. So yeah, give me a thumbs up, guys, if this helped. Thumbs up, say this was helpful. Put the comments below. This was helpful. Oh, wait, I have a question from Justin. It's
Yeah,
so
no,
frustrating to hear
gosh.
we are not a match due to a child's behavior. It makes me wonder who can ever adopt a child, and we just got a kid at the end of June. Oh,
Oh, Justin, it could be, I don't know what your story is. Some kids are, depending on their situation, are just not safe in a household that has other kids younger than them, especially. There
yeah.
are kids that need to be the only child in a house. I don't know if that's your story. Um,
Hmm.
but when they have those in place, it's often to protect everybody in the house.
Yeah.
And like we've had a kid placed with us, and I mean, we know what we're doing. We have a lot of years of experience, and we've even had a kiddo placed with us that after like 36 hours it was like, this is not safe for our baby bird. And that was like so devastating. We were all so sad, all of us, my teenagers, weeping about it. But at the
Mm,
end of the day, the child has to be safe from hurting other kids too. And so if this child could hurt your 5-year-old, then
mhm.
that would make it even harder for them to find another family, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. So they might be protecting that child from themselves as well.
Yeah, and Justin, I wonder if even you just on your own making the decision to be more TBRI trained would also help.
Mhm.
I mean,
Mhm.
I don't know if your foster care, I don't know if you're going through a foster care agency, but if your agency has TBRI training, I would say just really focus on doing that and learning more about it. Um, so you just feel more equipped in general. So that might also be something that helps. But
Yeah, and
please
reach
keep
out
me
to me.
updated.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and don't hesitate to reach out to me, and my Instagram is wholehearted space, there's not a hyphen in it, and it has a picture of me, like a side profile.
So you're
Uh,
easy to spot.
yeah, But reach out to me too, because there's a lot of things that weigh into that. And I don't really know any state that has a great foster care system.
Yep.
But
That's so true.
but usually the placements there's a lot of consideration in them, and they're not just going to try to get a kid into a house. They really aren't most
Yeah.
of the time.
Yeah, they want to make sure that kid can be there for as
A
long as
long time, as
possible.
long as they
Yeah,
need to be. Yeah.
for sure. Yeah. All right, guys. Any other questions? We got one more minute.
Okay.
Oh, Justin. Yeah. Justin, same with me.
Mm-hmm.
We only got that cursory training too. That's why I am where I am today as well, is wanting to know more and wanting to learn more. That's why I contacted Kara. So definitely reach out to her to learn more or see if your agency will. What I actually did was contact my foster care agency and say, hey, this amazing lady Kara provides TBR training. Can you pay for it so that we can take it for free? Because you're supposed to be helping your foster parents. And so they're actually looking into it. So I would try that route instead of maybe paying to get TBRI training. Reach out to your foster care agency and say, hey, will you guys pay for her to come and teach us how to do this? Because we need it. If you want us to be
Yeah.
foster parents, we have to know how to do this,
The other avenue, Justin, I don't know what kind of community you're in, but I work with a lot of churches where if they have 6 or 8 families that do foster or adopt, then the church will agree, like, as a church, we should support these families better. And then they will have me come and they will pay for me to do the training, not just for those families, but like the Sunday school teachers that work with the kids, the pastors that support the parents. So I don't know if you have a church or a synagogue or maybe where your place of employment or whatnot, but I do a lot of that. I do a daycare quarterly that I train their staff once a quarter, which is really cool. And then I do a before and after training for the public schools here. And so that you wouldn't even necessarily, if your foster agency says they don't have the money for it, because sometimes they're tied in with states and they have contracts with the states. That gets complicated. I'm doing submitting data right now to Cigna Healthcare with all the private work I'm doing, because Cigna is exploring reimbursing families for peer coaching, which would be really awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. Yeah. Oh, Justin, good. You go to a church. They do classes twice a year. Yeah, that's amazing. Carrie, I agree. I like the training for daycare too. This is one of the things that I wish to for my foster kids is that
Mhm.
wherever they went when they're not in our home, that somebody is trained in this. Because when you just have your kids go to a daycare and the staff are not trained in this, they just
Oh
treat the
yeah.
kids as if they're like normal kids with no trauma, which can be really hard. Because if your
Oh,
kids are
it's
having a really hard time
terrible.
at the
Yeah.
daycare, they're giving them, consequences, not knowing that, wait, this is trauma related. So I mean, what Kara is doing is so important. The daycare training, school training, any type of anyone dealing with kids being TBRI trained is so, so very crucial if we're really going to come around and help foster parents, but also ultimately help foster kids and just adopted children in general. I think this is very crucial.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, we're going to wrap it up and call it a night. I just want to remind you guys again, not forget to sign up for the Kingdom Adoption Launchpad. It's next week. I start Monday, November 27th. Kara will be joining me for a bonus session. It's going to be awesome. So go to Kingdom Adoption Launchpad. I also put it in the comments. Kingdom Adoption Launchpad.com. Go sign up there. And I can't wait to see all of you guys November 27th. Also tell your friends. If you guys
Yeah.
know family or friends who have been wanting to adopt and they're like, we don't know where to start, this is the course for you. All right. All right, guys. Thank you so much for being on here. Kara, thank you so much for being here with us. Um,
Yeah. Thanks for inviting
yes.
me.
Yes, yes, guys. And thank you guys all for joining on the live tonight. And I'll see you in the next live.
Yeah.
All
I
right.
hope to see you all soon.
All right.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.